Well. It is time to recap this weekend's MMA action. With Mio on MMA, I'm Mio. Give me a like, give me a follow, give me a subscription, wherever you're watching. And check out the Discord links for action in the Mixed Martial Arts Simulator. Well, technically speaking, I really should stop calling it the Mixed Martial Arts Simulator, because it's a combat sports simulator. It can do kickboxing, it can do grappling, and so on. And boxing. So, there is more than just MMA to it. But there was no UFC this weekend. To be honest, there was actually no particular drama even in the MMA world. I mean, there's always drama. There's always Jake Shields being Jake Shields, and I guess I don't know. There's always the weirdness that we have with female MMA fans. That's for sure. It's just kind of bizarre. It's a bizarre space. Anyways. So let's get into the fights. I'm going to do something a little bit different in this one. Because here's the thing. When I recap UFC, I'm assuming my viewers have seen the fights. I'm just kind of giving a technical blow-by-blow of what happened, what's going to happen, matchmaking stuff, and so on. I am assuming that there probably are people watching this video or listening to this podcast that did not actually see the fights. Because PFL and Bellator viewership are notably lower, despite being actually, at least in Canada, free on YouTube. So there you go. There is no reason to not go check it out. So I'm going to be, instead of doing that, there will be spoilers for the fights, because it's very, very hard to talk about a fight and not talk about who won. But it's going to be more of a general thoughts on the fight. What kind of fight you're getting, why you should watch it, or why you shouldn't. I'm not going to go out of my way to say every fight on these cards was a gem, because they were not. But I will try to hype up the ones that were good. So let's talk about Bellator first. There's sort of the slightly higher profile, although actually with Jake Paul investing in PFL, that might not be the case anymore. The main event was Daniel James, Marcelo Golm. This was actually pretty good. Now I will say, as main events go, this, my opinion, didn't really change. This was not on paper the best fight on the card. Excuse me. This was not the most important fight on the card. And really, like, if you're looking for all the things that we generally look for to associate with a main event, none of it was really there. But it was pretty fun. For heavyweights, this was action-packed. It was fought at a good pace. Golm had good ideas. James had some good ideas, at least for his style. I will say the way James fights is not the greatest idea, just full stop. But when you have the power he has, and the stopping ability he has, and the sudden dynamicism that he has, you can get away with, fighting like Marlon Chito Vera. Again, it works. It's not something I would recommend anyone try, but it works for them. They've developed a style that works for them and can get the job done. And he did. He got a job done with a big knockout in the third round. It's a fun fight. It's a heavyweight fight, and it will not convince you in any way that it is not a heavyweight fight. But it is a fun fight, and it is worth checking out. Katsugano, Liam McCourt. I'm more mixed on this fight because, on one hand, there were some great scrambles in this fight. When these two ladies went to the ground, it was interesting and fun. And all of that. Like, the grappling was great. The striking, not so much. And the takedown aspect, not so much. Both girls kind of failed on takedowns, which is what led to the actual good scrambling, frankly. So, ironically, their faults were what led to the good parts of this fight. Controversial decision for Zingano. McCourt did better than I thought. I honestly thought that McCourt would kind of not get steamrolled, because that's not the right word. I was picking decisions. Obviously, I wasn't picking a complete domination or steamroll or whatever. But I did think that she would have that her game played directly into what Zingano is good at, and even at 40 years old, Zingano would do the thing. Now, I'm not convinced that she did. McCourt looked better. Scrambles much better than I gave her credit for. And it's an informative fight that should probably be checked out, even though women's featherweight is kind of a black hole of what's going on right now. Because, you have a champion in Chris Cyborg who... I don't really understand this from Bellator's point of view. I don't understand this from anyone's point of view. Zingano, Bellator, Cyborg. Why Zingano Cyborg just hasn't already happened. My understanding was that bringing Zingano in was essentially to give a name value opponent, someone with some UFC cred, to fight against Cyborg. And for some reason, they haven't done it. They've done like Arlene Blenko twice. It's very, very weird. McCord appears to be getting better, but I mean, it could also just be that Zingano at 40 years old just isn't really the same fighter anymore. John Salter versus Aaron Jeffrey is one that you probably can skip, if I'm being honest. I mean, it was John Salter's final fight. He retired afterwards. So maybe you want to see it just for those reasons. But nah, it kind of was what I expected it to be. Jeffrey is not a bad wrestler or a bad takedown defender, but he can be taken down. And Salter is a good takedown artist. He's a strong dude. He kind of plods his way into like getting things done, which he definitely did here. But he got him down. He did manage to maintain top control. Did not do a lot. Archie Colgan looked good though. He beat Justin Montalvo. I had Montalvo in this fight. This was my first real big loss of the night because, to be clear, like I picked Marcelo Golm to win and he did not win. So that's it. That's an L for me. But the fight went that fight went largely how I thought it would be. Like Golm was winning up until the point where, Daniel James did Daniel James things. This one was not. No, Colgan looked sharp. Colgan looked very good and just messed up Montalvo. He's taken some steps forward, and I'm really, really interested in what he could do in the future. He's got a spectacular wrestling background, is my understanding. And I don't follow NCAA wrestling. You may have figured that out. But like spectacular wrestling background. How old is he? That would, I guess, be one of the questions I have because he's 27. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. 5'9", lightweight. Yeah, no. This guy is something to actually get excited about. That's pretty impressive. So that's a definite check out and watch. Luke Trainer and Sullivan Cauley. This was a loss for me. I had Sullivan Cauley. I think most people had Sullivan Cauley. Cauley did the things that you expect him to do, but then he just got his back taken and got choked out. I guess I kind of spoiled that one. But honestly, if you're really interested in watching 205 prospects develop, because Cauley still is. There's nothing about this that like hard caps Cauley or like it's a prospect loss. He can get past this and move on. And yeah, I would. I'm still excited to see what he can do in the future. Raheem Cleveland picked up a 10-figure guillotine, standing guillotine on Christian Edwards. That was very nice. That was very cool. Check that out. Mike Hamill blitzed Nick Brown. That's worth your time because it's 42 seconds. Go check it out. Adam Piccolotti picked up a rear naked choke over Mandel Nalo. Bit of a flat flight. It was Piccolotti doing Piccolotti things. Sarah Collins picked up a scarfold submission over Pam Sorensen. That's a big deal because so this was the first really big moment for Collins. She's a featherweight. We're desperate for featherweight prospects in the women's divisions. She's a Olympic judoka. I kind of reference kind of the female Dan Kelly, if you remember him from his UFC run. Although not, I don't think she's that old. Collins. I don't have an age for her. That is kind of weird. And she has one of those faces that I'm having a hard time putting an age on. Yeah, she's 4-0. This was her first fight against someone with any any actual credentials, but she made it look easy. She made it look very, very easily. And don't get me wrong, Pam Sorensen's a 9-6 fighter who's largely lost to most of the notable opponents she's had. Kat Zingano, Arlene Blenko, Felicia Spencer, Edian Gomes, Shanna Young, even back in the day, in 2016. But, she's also exposed to a lot of, pretenders to the crown, so to speak. Elena Kolishnik, Roberta Pam Samad, I think that's how you say it. She has a win over Jessica Rose Clark, who's a pretty good fighter, although much smaller than her. She's a good fighter, even if she's not like particularly elite. But got the job done. And we have a prospect at 145. Jeff Creighton won a split decision against Joey Davis. Skip this fight. This fight was terrible. It was essentially Davis, who was a massive, massive favorite and a massive prospect, shit in the bed. He got takedowns, wasn't able to do anything with them. Really, Creighton wasn't able to do like a hell of a lot. Like, it's not like Creighton came out here and it's like, oh my god, Creighton showed up this young prospect and got the job done and rises his stock. No, not really. You largely got blanketed by a guy who just didn't do any damage. So that's all there is to it. But a prospect that did live up to the expectations, Lucas Brennan, rear naked choke, Josh San Diego. Check that out. Again, it's a short one. It's a first round stoppage. Check it out. And Vladimir Tokov versus Lance Gibson. Gibson Jr. Pardon me. Lance Gibson Jr. getting his first loss, with Vladimir Tokov getting one hell of a power jab, I will say that much. Big knockout there. Tokov doing his thing. And one of the prospects for your boy, Fedor Emelianenko, continues his run. Randy Field picked up a decision win over Ashley Cummins. Kind of skippable. Because, of course, this was a 120 fight. Cummins is realistically an atomweight. Every time she steps up in weight, she pretty much loses. I could be wrong on that, but let me see here. Yeah, she stepped up against Alexa Grasso, lost. Emily Kagan, lost. Joanne Wood, lost. Is that Joanne Calderwood or is that another Joanne Wood? No, that is Joanne Calderwood. Yeah. Her losses are to like exceptionally good people, obviously. I mean, Grasso is currently UFC champion. Joanne Wood is a contender. She has 2 losses to Jinyu Fry and 1 to Alicia Zapatella, and now to Randy Field. And she's beaten people like Jessica Delbone, Stephanie Alba. That's really about it. Those are pretty much the only 2. I mean, I guess when she beat Stephanie Frausto, there was like still some hope that Frausto was like going to be good. But yeah, she does have some catchweight wins. She ironically doesn't have a single strawweight win by the looks of it, ironically. Yeah, not a single strawweight win. Couple of catchweight wins over like nobody's. I wish Stephanie Alba was better. She has a fun style, but she's 40 years old now, and it's just not really going to work out, I don't think. And she hasn't fought in 4 years. Anyways, not much to see here. Field was just bigger. Like, I hate to break it down to like that level, but like it was just that like anytime they clenched up and they did their thing, Cummins was doing more technically correct things, but Field just kind of bullied her. And Field got the win. Bryce Meredith, Brandon Carrillo, that ended up pretty good. That was a submission to rear naked choke win for Bryce Meredith. That was a solid fight. And Mackenzie Seiler picked up a pretty cool armbar against Benson Henderson's wife, Maria Henderson, in the opener. We lost Hustam Habalov versus Jaleel Willis. That's a shame. And it's a shame we lost J.J. Wilson from this card. But we did get Adam Piccolotti, who is, quality veteran Bellator guy. It was not an amazing card. And I'll be serious. I'm still throwing shade at Bellator because you had a weekend of no UFC. You had a weekend where these are the weekends that Bellator needs to shine. And I understand we don't necessarily know when those off weekends for the UFC are going to be. To be honest, we don't know. But as soon as it becomes like there appears a hole in the schedule, go for it. Go for it, because you have to. These are the chances to get something big in there. And Daniel James, Marcelo Golm, fun fight, but it was not that. Katzengano, Liam McCourt, important fight, but it was not that. John Salter, Aaron Jeffrey, not that. There were some excellent prospect showings, and those won't get people in the door, though. The prospects do not get people in the door. The prospects that will allow you to stay. Like people, you put a big fight on top of this, and people see what Archie Colgan did out there today, or not today, but 2 days ago. You see what Sarah Collins did. You'll probably be a lot interested in those people. You see what Vladimir Tokov did. You see what Lucas Brennan did. These are all people to build around in the future. You were kind of hoping for something from Joey Davis. You didn't get it. It happens. How old is Mike Hamill? He's 30. I was going to say Mike Hamill might be something to build around too, but like there's a little bit too many losses here. Now, granted, the losses are like really, really, really good fighters like Usman Nurmagomedov, Adam Boric, Bruno Souza, Jordan Winsky, who's pretty decent. Like, it's a good crop of fighters, but I do kind of worry that he's like action level capped. But we'll see. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with being an action level fighter. There is nothing wrong with that at all. It is fun. There is work for that. PFL Professional Fighters League started out their season. They did a better job, I think, in like hyping this up. Like they had good hype packages for Thiago Santos, the former UFC fighter. Marlon Moraes was also hyped up pretty big. Brandon Logain and Rob Wilkinson, former champions. This is kind of ironic because, of course, the PFL kind of is handicapped when it comes to matchmaking. They have a tournament to facilitate, a league to facilitate, and if they don't do that, their whole thing kind of falls apart. So, Brendan Logain versus Marlon Moraes was the main event. I expected Moraes to get finished. I did not expect it to be by leg kicks. So if you want to see a leg kick stoppage, go check that out. It's fun. It's rare. It's got a thing. It's also sad because Marlon Moraes shouldn't be fighting. The things that made Marlon Moraes good and a top-level contender, and believe me, at one point, this guy fought for a UFC title. He was very, very top level. Are gone. He's not as fast as he used to be. He's not durable. He's never great defensively either. Logain picked up the win here. Rob Wilkinson and Thiago Santos was interesting in the sense that we got to see Rob Wilkinson, the wrestler, come out. I mean, we've seen him wrestle before. We know Rob Wilkinson, just by being more of a kickboxer, Muay Thai boxer guy, does have a ground game. Like, dude is well-rounded, and his striking does feed into wrestling positions really, really well. But I don't think I've ever seen him. Well, okay, he tried to do this against Israel Adesanya back in the UFC. But I've never seen him really fully succeed in just implementing a wrestling game. And he went out there, he did it. It was a great showing. And it really fills me with a lot of hope that this guy is going to win back-to-back $1 million tournaments. Because looking at the other competition out here tonight, I don't really know who I picked to beat him. There are options. We'll talk about Martine Hamlet and I'm forgetting his first, Josh Silvara, Conan Silvara's kid. They are options. Like, they are up-and-coming, exciting prospects. But, man, it is hard to see it. Will Fleury won a very ho-hum win over Krzysztof Jotko, which basically boiled down to Fleury is bigger. I will say Fleury is actually really big. I don't think, having watched all of his, a couple of his regional fights, I had really appreciated how big he is, but he shut down Jotko. Jotko shut him down too, and not much happened. And also, we have to talk about Jotko rolled his ankle something fierce in the first round. And just kind of like nothing to do with what Fleury was doing. Nothing to do with it at all. It's not like a leg kick or anything. He was just kind of circling and rolled it. One has to wonder how much that affected it. Movlid Habalayev defeated Ryoji Kujo. As expected, not much to see there other than, Habalayev is back. Probably going to win that tournament. Bubba Jenkins, Chris Wade. This fight sucked. Not even because of the fight. Because it was refreshing to see Bubba Jenkins go out there and actually put on his classic wrestling heavy style on somebody. It legitimately was. Like, I had been asking for Bubba Jenkins to stop being a dumbass for a long time. The problem is that associated with all that was a lot of dumbassery, because he was talking a lot of smack about Chris Wade. He does not like Chris Wade. He really does not like Chris Wade. He really dislikes that Chris Wade insults his religiosity, and he would probably hate me as well, because the whole talking to God, I've never been a big fan of the, man, Jesus is with me in the octagon. Jesus is with me in this cage. Jesus gives me the power. Because it's ridiculous. And this is not even an anti-religiosity thing. I was raised religious. I want to be clear on that. If you asked any of my religious family members to discuss what they think, and I do regard my family members as like truly religious. They practice what they teach. for the most part. There are exceptions, but for the most part, a couple of them do. They would probably think that this is ridiculous, that your power through Jesus, through God, is manifested in the octagon or the cage or any sporting event, frankly, at all. Like, this is a sporting event where you, for money, are trying to hurt another guy or girl, another human being, another soul, another individual, another of God's creations. For money. What the heck? Anyways, kind of painful in that regard. And the fight was terrible. There was a point where someone in my Discord, Juliana, I think, pointed out that, or did I point it out? Am I accrediting something I said to something someone else said here? Let me just pull this up real quick. No, I said it. I said, I'm mostly just amused that after all the smoke Jenkins was talking, he's thrown like 4 strikes on the ground. She corrected me and said it was 3. I'm pretty sure it was 4. There was like a illegal, not illegal knee that was thrown. It got a pause, and I think it just didn't get counted. But anyways, what I'm getting at here is this fight sucked. And for all the hype it had in terms of like, this is a big deal. These two guys really don't like each other. And Jenkins is like, I'm going to hurt him. I'm going to strike with him. I'm not going to wrestle with him because you can't hurt the guy when you wrestle with him, which is wrong because you absolutely can hurt people when you wrestle them. You can wrestle them down and you can ground and pound the crap out of them. What the hell? Oh, God, it was not great. But this version of Bubba Jenkins probably actually has a better chance of actually winning the tournament. So I'll say that. Martin Hamlet defeated Mohamed Fakhreddin. There is a Fakhreddinov as well that is in MMA, so I'll probably confuse the two at various points. But Fakhreddin, he just ripped his head off with a face crank. That was lovely. If you love neck cranks and stuff, check that out. And Josh Silvari made very short work of Sam K, another 205 fight with a rear naked choke win. Also worth your time because, again, very quick. 2 minutes, 46 seconds of your time. Check it out. It was a very smooth rear naked choke. Alejandro Flores, Daniel Torres was a bit of a letdown. I'm kind of used to both of these guys being fairly active guys, and they weren't. It was a very low simmer for a featherweight fight where neither guy had any kind of like control. It's not like Bubba Jenkins versus Chris Wade, where Bubba Jenkins is at least on top position winning the fight all the way through. Like, this was pretty questionable all the way. There was some good leg kicks being thrown. Some good leg kicks. Torres did have the better moments. Like, the only guy who really got hurt in this fight in a significant way with punches was Flores. Who was it that ate the knee? One of them ate a knee strike that had me laughing pretty hard. It was Torres. So Flores kicked Torres in the balls. And Torres no-sold it, while at the same time looking like the most offended person on the planet. It was actually pretty funny. It was like, it was the ultimate, dude, you kicked me in the balls moment. And just for that was in the first round. That was worth seeing, but the fight never really heated up and became what I was hoping for. Gabriel Alves Braga put up it was a late notice replacement for Sung Bin Jo. And he went out there and he kicked the crap out of Jesus Pineda's legs. Jesus Pineda has to work on the idea of like defending his body and defending his legs. The head is not bad. Like he has some head movement. He has a high guard and so on. Like, he's not knockout material necessarily, although I did have Joe knocking him out. But whoa, is he open below the neckline? Is he very, very open to getting hit? And Braga looks good. Braga, I think, is actually a decent addition to the tournament. I just kind of wish it was someone else that got taken out than Joe, because I like Joe. But presumably, because he's injured, or it just says medically not cleared, nothing specific. Could also be COVID, I guess, or some kind of illness. Probably not going to be in the tournament. Ty Flores won a unanimous decision against Del Monte. It was fine. I actually still haven't looked at Impa Kasanganay versus Corey Hendricks. I missed it because we were doing live commentary on a sim race, myself and my often associate viewer Byron were doing that, and we missed the first fight. Kasanganay wanted a unanimous decision. I can imagine it may have allayed some of my fears about him fighting dudes who are way bigger than him. But that being said, Corey Hendricks is also not a great fighter in any way. So I do suspect Kasanganay will lose to the likes of Rob Wilkinson and probably even the likes of Hamlet and Silvaria, assuming Hamlet finds consistency, because Hamlet is like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. But those are the three big guns at 205. And at featherweight, I still pick Logain to retain, but to win again, I guess technically. But pardon me, Habalayev. Pardon me, yeah, Movlid Habalayev probably to win. But Logain's a candidate, and Bubba Jenkins, if he can find a happy medium between the slickster boxer that he kind of wanted to be for a really, really long time, but on the other hand, still gets the wrestling involved and still like has his A game functioning. That's also a candidate. So featherweight, really interesting. 205, not as much. I mean, there are three potential winners, I guess, but I don't think Hamlet has the consistency, and I don't think Silvara has developed into that level of fighter yet. But that was the Professional Fighters League. What do we got coming up? Because I know we got a pay-per-view coming up. We got PFL 2. Let's have a look at that. And we got UFC 287. Oh, so someone asked me if I'm covering Game Bred boxing. No. I barely watch regular, like, high-level boxing. I am not watching George Masvidal's boxing promotion. And to be honest, I don't want to give money to George Masvidal because he's a dick. I used to really, really like George Masvidal. Like, if we rewind the clock back to his Absolute Fighting Championship days, his Bodog days, his Strikeforce days, I liked him. I thought there were flaws in his fighting style that led to him losing decisions a lot of the time, but I actually did really like him. I kind of liked the brash confidence. I liked the whole thing. And to be clear, no, this is not a political thing. Because even back then, I knew where his politics lied. He wasn't nearly as loud about them. But if you ever got George Masvidal's take on politics, even back when he was like a 16-year-old, 18-year-old, I guess, dude was a conservative. Dude's politics have never, ever lined up with me. It wasn't the Trump moment. Because I was still a fan of him after the Trump moment when he came out as a Trumper. My problem is more like the assaulting Colby Covington. The irony of assaulting Colby Covington being my main problem with him. But also the fact that for a guy who was all about earning everything he got, the fact that he's still in the title picture, got title shots and so on, rubs me the wrong way. It's kind of going anti-character for him. And it's kind of like Colby Covington, because like Colby Covington's whole thing, like his fans are like, he's just a blue-collar worker man. He's a good guy who earns everything he gets. And it's like, well, no, he really doesn't. Honestly, he's been kind of gifted a title shot on a platter. And also, I'm not sure how being a good guy is like partying with porn stars and not partying, but okay, whatever. So yeah, I don't really like him. Yeah, it's a bit weird that he's under legal procedure, and it's just he's just gonna co-main event UFC 287. Anyways, yeah, PFL, Larissa Pacheco, Julia Budd, Berto Capoloza versus Matthias Scheffel. Those are good fights, actually. I like both of those fights. Not as big on Golston versus DeCastro, Henan Faria versus, I do not really know, Rizvan Kuniev. Let's have a look at him real quick. He's a 12-2-1 fighter. 6'4", 265 pounds and a half. Wins over Anthony Hamilton. Okay, that's something. Looks like he's more of a finisher. That's good. I'll do some research, but like on paper, he's not looking bad. Although does have a loss to Darko Stosic. Yeah, it was 9 years ago, and it was his fourth professional fight. But I don't think of Stosic being particularly good. And a loss to Justin Willis. Justin Willis is actually really good. It's just he needs to get his weight under control. So that could be interesting. Olesnik versus Hespen. I don't know why I have such a hard time with her name. Ladd will probably win that. Baggio Ali Walsh. Hey, Muhammad Ali's grandson? Is that the? I know he's in the Ali family. Versus Isaiah Figueiredo. That's a fight that probably is not going to be worth our time, but name value. Martine Jindarova versus Amber Lee Brock. That's actually pretty decent. Like their records are not great, 6-3 versus 6-4, but that's not bad. Marcelo Nunes versus Maurice Green. Hard to get excited for that. Michael Andrzejak versus Patrick Brady. Also kind of hard to get excited about that. Patrick Brady, he's 5-0. So I guess I can't say that he's the can of the tournament or anything. But none of his fights look good. He's a can crusher, and the only guy with a winning record he's fought took him to split decision. And he's 39 years old. Yeah, I'm not really stoked for him. Evelyn Martins versus Carolina Sobek. That's not bad. And Marina Makhtarin. I never get these right. Natkina versus Yoko Hagasi. It's not terrible. Delia withdrew from his fight with Morgan Castro. I wanted Delia to be in this. I really did. And Patrick Brady wasn't supposed to be part of the tournament. He replaced him. Oh, that's bad. And then in the UFC, of course, you got Izzy Adesanya versus Alex Pereira for the second time in MMA and the fourth time overall. Gilbert Burns versus George Masvidal. Rob Font versus Adrian Yanez is a banger. So is Kevin Holland versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. Christian Rodriguez versus Raul Rosas Jr. I get why Rosas Jr. is on the main card. That still doesn't really feel like a main card bout, but hey, it's okay. It's okay. Kelvin Gastelum, Chris Curtis. That is sad. Michelle Waterson Gomez versus Luana Pinheiro. Hey, Luana Pinheiro's back. It's been a long time since she's fought. I actually think she's quite good. She hasn't fought since 2021 against Sam Hughes. But yeah, she beat Sam Hughes. She did have that illegal upkick win over Hannah Marcos with a fight that she was winning. Yeah, so hey, she's pretty good. She's pretty good. And she has a win over Stephanie Frausto. This is more times than Stephanie Frausto has ever been mentioned on this podcast. Carl Williams is back against Chase Sherman. That's cool, picking Carl Williams there. Spoiler. Gerald Mershart versus Joe Pyfer. That's a fun fight. Lupita Godinez, Cynthia Calvillo. That would have been a fun fight like 3 years ago. I'm not interested in Calvillo anymore. Trey Ogden versus Ignacio Bahamondes. I guess that's a quick rebooking. Steve Garcia versus Shalin Nurenbeke and Jacqueline Amorin versus Sam Hughes. Speaking of Sam Hughes, she's on the card. Who is Amorin again? I recognize the name. Yeah, she's the Invicta girl, or LFA girl, I should say. Likes to win by armbar and knee bar and stuff. Really loves the armbar. I think it'll get her in some trouble, but she is actually pretty good. So yeah, not a bad card. There's some duds there. I'm not looking forward to Ogden Bahamondes. I'm not really looking forward to Calvillo versus Godinez. I'm not really looking forward to Carl Williams versus Chase Sherman. I'm not really looking forward to Gastelum versus Chris Curtis, which is no disrespect for Chris Curtis. I like Chris Curtis. I just do not. I do not feel healthy about watching Kelvin Gastelum fight anymore. Dude just has taken a boatload of abuse. Even when he beat Ian Heinisch, like he is staying conscious, but he is getting lit up every time he fights. But hey, the main card is pretty stoked. Outside of the opener, don't get me wrong, I'm actually pretty excited for Rosas Jr. versus Christian Rodriguez. It's the first big test for Raul Rosas. I just don't think it's a main card fight. I get why it is. They love having the 18-year-old there. They love the kid. He's got his own kind of awkward teen charisma that they're trying to capitalize on. So I don't hate it. But I also do feel like a better fight would be in that spot. But the other 4 fights are pretty dope. Anyways, that's the show for today. It's a little short, but I hope you enjoyed it, and tune in on Thursday when I'll be back.